सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Let us briefly see what happened in this chapter. So in the opening verse, Bhagavan describes the Guru Parampara. Bhagavan says, I gave this spiritual knowledge to Vivaswan, the sun god. Vivaswan gave it to Manu. Manu gave it to Ikshvaku. And this way, all the great kings of the past, they knew this great knowledge. And that is why they were very efficient, very powerful. But then, over a period of time, this Jnana Parampara got disrupted. Therefore, Arjuna, I am here to revive the very same knowledge. So, I am giving it to you because you are my devotee and my friend. So, therefore, this great secret, I am revealing it to you. And then, naturally, Arjuna had a question. Bhagavan, how is it that you gave this knowledge to Sun God? Because you were recently born. So then Bhagavan said, Arjuna, this is not my first avatar. I have taken avatar very many times. I have been there even before the creation itself. So therefore, not only I have taken many avatars, you have also taken very many janmas. The only thing is, you don't remember it, I remember all of them. So then Bhagavan goes on to reveal his avatar rahasya. Bhagavan says, I now and then come to this world, keeping my Maya under my control, out of my own will, I take avatar. Though I am unborn, I take avatar. What is the purpose of avatar? Whenever there is a deterioration in dharma and there is an upsurge in adharma, at that time I take avatar. So what is the main purpose of avatar? Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I do the dharma samsthapana in order to maintain the cosmic orderliness, balance. I take avatar. And how do you do it? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. By protecting the people who are virtuous, righteous, following the path of dharma, and by eliminating those people who are against dharma. So now Bhagavan comes to the main topic. So Arjuna, don't think that I am born and I do lot of things. Though I said that I take birth, though I said that I do dharma samsthapana, etc., but understand me to be birthless and actionless. On one side, Bhagavan is saying, I take birth. On the other side, Bhagavan is saying, I am birthless. Now there is a confusion. And then Bhagavan says, whoever knows my Janma and Karma to be Divyam, divine, such a person has reached me, such a person has become one with me. So what is Bhagavan trying to say? Just like I am birthless and actionless, in the same way, everyone is birthless and actionless. The one who has known this great truth, he has known truly who I am. He has become one with me. Though I have created all the forecasts, remember, I am a perfect non-doer. So now this becomes the main theme of this chapter. So Bhagavan says, Arjuna, all the ancestors of yours, they did karma in this way. You also must learn to do karma in this way. So what is the secret of karma and akarma? The one who sees akarma in karma and karma in akarma, such a person is the wisest man. So we had discussed all this. Consciousness ever is actionless. All the actions take place at the body, mind, intellect level. At the Prakriti level, all actions take place, but at the consciousness level, there is no action. So when Bhagavan says, I am actionless, so it is with respect to the consciousness. When Bhagavan says, I did everything, that is with respect to his body, mind, intellect. So whenever there is identification, there is action. Whenever there is disidentification, there is no action. So what does Bhagavan say? Perform action holding on to consciousness. If you are holding on to consciousness and performing action, those actions are not actions, meaning those actions cannot produce results for you. Those actions cannot taint you. You will escape from all the evil consequences of action. Now, what are the evil consequences of action? Good or bad? The evil consequences are, these actions will produce results, and in order to go through these results, one has to be born again and again. These are the evil consequences. What is wrong in being born again and again? Well, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi is what happens when you are born. Janma is painful, birth is painful. Mrityu, death is painful. Jara, old age is painful. Vyadhi, disease is painful. So therefore, how much ever great punya you might have done, punya will give rise to punya phala, and every punya phala will give rise to janma. Maybe in a very, 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 very prosperous family, very, 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 very cultured family. Maybe you are born in a yogi's family, but birth is painful. Birth means infinite being confined to a finite body. So any birth is imperfection, any birth is limitation, any birth is pain. So therefore, what does Bhagavan say? Hold on to this actionless consciousness and let the body, mind, intellect act. Don't identify. It is identification which leads to action. So disidentify and act. In this way, you will escape from all evil consequences of action. Bhagavan says there are very many people who have attained this. And what is the way of attaining it? First, purify the mind by holding on to Bhagavan, taking refuge in Bhagavan, by performing karma yoga. And once the mind is purified, attain this knowledge. And then Bhagavan goes on to give the characteristics of a jnani. So what are the important characteristics? Even though he performs action, as far as he is concerned, he remains actionless. He is not tainted by any actions. At the same time, actions are performed at the worldly level. From a worldly person's standpoint, he is very active, but from his own standpoint, there is no action. just like sun, just like fire. And this person is free from all kinds of worries and anxieties. Such a jnani has absolute control over his mind and the senses. Such a jnani is nitya triptaha and nirashraya, ever contented, blissful, happy. The imperfections of body, mind, etc. is no more his imperfection. Such a person lives a life of liberation. He is liberated even while living in this world. And now what is his vision? His vision is there is Brahman and Brahman alone everywhere. There is consciousness alone everywhere. That is his vision. It is not that he is not seeing this world. He is very much seeing this world, but for him, this world is an illusion. So therefore, this world cannot delude him. The world cannot tempt him. He is seeing the world just like we are seeing the world, but for him, the world is totally negated. This is the difference. Just like we see the mirage waters. In the desert, you see that watery appearance. You see the watery appearance, but you are not tempted to drink that water because you know there is no water. You are seeing, but still you know it's an illusion. So in the same way, the Mahatma see the world. What does he see? He sees only consciousness. He attains the vision of oneness, even though the world is full of plurality. So this is his knowledge. Then Bhagavan goes on to give various kinds of spiritual sadhanas which the spiritual seekers do. So what is the essence of the discussion? The essence is this. All these sadhanas can at the most purify the mind, and these sadhanas are to be done. If the mind is not purified, they have their own place. But Bhagavan says, Jnana Yajna is higher than all those sadhanas, because in Jnana Yajna, the very cause of suffering is addressed. What is the very cause of suffering? Identification with the body is the cause of suffering. In Jnana, you destroy the very identification. You are dealing with the very root of the problem. Whereas in all other sadhanas, the problem is not addressed directly. Various sadhanas are done. Of course, you get peace of mind, you get purity of mind. All those things are there. But the cause of samsara, which is Jivatva bhava, the sense of individuality, that is not addressed. That remains. Jnana Yajna is superior to every other yajna because in this, the real cause is addressed. It destroys the very individuality of the jiva. Moreover, as we said yesterday, every other karma, the result is always limited, finite, impermanent. Whereas the result which jnana gives, it is infinite. Why is it so? Because in jnana, the result is vastu tantra, not purusha tantra. You are trying to know a thing as it is. In jnana, you are trying to know the nature of the thing, and the nature of consciousness is, it is infinite. So therefore, he attains infinite result. Not because his effort is infinite, but because the nature of the thing is infinite. Because of all these reasons, Bhagavan says, this jnana is superior. So ultimately, all the sadhanas have to, someday or the other, it must end in jnana. What is that jnana? Aham Brahma Asmi. This is the jnana. Right. But how to gain this knowledge? Yes. Arjuna, there is no other way. You must approach a teacher. You can't just gain this knowledge by reading some books. Some inspiration you may get, but a teacher is unavoidable in this path because the knowledge is very, very subtle. Subtler the knowledge, greater the need for a teacher. A gross knowledge can be learnt by ourselves. Teach yourself series. You can teach yourself. Take a book, open it, read it, follow the instruction. You can learn yourself. Grosser the knowledge, lesser the need for a teacher. Now this knowledge being the subtlest, the highest, very difficult to comprehend. Therefore, the teacher is unavoidable. So how to approach the teacher? So here Bhagavan gives what should be the attitude of the student and what should be the qualification of the teacher. So that is verse number 34. What does Bhagavan say? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. There are three things which the student, the seeker, must keep in mind when he approaches the teacher. Now before that, how will I know whether who is my teacher? Before approaching the teacher, more important question is, how will I know whom to approach? Who is trustworthy? Who is enlightened? Who is fit to be my teacher? How will I know? You need not know. The Lord will take care of it. It is God's responsibility. Once you become fit for knowledge, it is God's responsibility to supply you with Guru. How a student has to come in contact with a teacher which can be tuned to his likings, his inclination, that neither the Guru can decide nor the student can decide. It is decided by the Lord. Wherever there is a demand, there has to be supply. Who has to supply? Bhagavan has to supply, because he alone knows the demand. Because he is Antaryami, he is seated in the heart of all. He alone knows who is fit for this knowledge. And which teacher, because in the market you find varieties of teachers. So which teacher is fit for which student? Bhagavan alone can decide, nobody else. Because he is Sarvajñah. Only an omniscient Lord can decide that. So the student need not worry about that. When he is fit, the right teacher will come. How it will come? Don't worry about it. Leave it to God. But when you are in front of your teacher, how should you approach him? So what does Bhagavan say? Tad vidhi pranipatena. So pranipata means falling flat at his feet. So this is the way in which Hindu culture, this is a very speciality of Hindu culture. We don't greet our teacher with shake hand or hugging, etc. Neither with hi, bye and all that. That is not our culture. What is our culture? When we meet our teacher, we fall prostrate at his feet. So pranipata means falling flat, totally flat. So it is a physical gesture, it's an attitude. What is the attitude? Oh teacher, I am totally helpless. I am a nobody. I am absolutely nothing. No, you alone have to deal with me, guide me. This is the attitude. So lying flat on your chest, it is a position where you cannot do anything. The person who is standing can do anything upon you. Isn't it? You are totally helpless there. That state of helplessness is indicated by falling flat. Now please understand, just because you fall flat doesn't mean you need to have humility inside. A crooked person can fall flat with all crookedness inside. Just because you fall flat doesn't mean. It is only a physical gesture indicating the attitude. What is the attitude? It is the attitude of humility. So when you approach a teacher, ensure that your cup is empty so that he can pour his knowledge. Don't go with a cup which is filled to the brim. Right? Because only an empty cup can be filled. Only a humble person who thinks himself to be ignorant, such a person alone can gain knowledge. So with that attitude, you must approach pranipata. And you are falling at the feet of the teacher. Now what does the feet of the teacher represent? Sometimes the feet or the padukas. Even we worship the padukas of the teacher also. So padukas represent that place where the guru stands. Where does the guru stand? He stands on his feet. But actually he stands on this knowledge. Isn't it? This is the usual phrase. We say, learn to stand on your own. Means what? Learn to be independent. Right? So standing, so where does the guru stand? Guru stands on the strength of this knowledge. So when we are prostrating to his feet, it is not the physical feet, it is the knowledge we are prostrating to. When we are worshipping the paduka of the teacher, it is not the paduka, the padukas represent the knowledge. This understanding has to be there. So we fall at his feet. Knowledge can flow only from the higher to the lower. So to the extent you make yourself lowly, humble, to that extent the knowledge flows from the higher source. It is a jnana parampara, para to apara. From the higher to the lower, it has to flow. Flowing cannot be from the lower to the higher. It always have to be higher to the lower. So this is the meaning of pranipat. And then seva. Now seva is also very important. What is seva? You serve the teacher. So when you serve the teacher, you get an opportunity to be physically near with the teacher. Why should we have physical nearness to the teacher? There are two reasons. Only when there is physical nearness, the guru will know what kind of shishya is this. Because shishyas can be of varieties. Different types of shishyas can be there. Some are tamasic, some are rajasic, some are sattvic, some are very dull, some are hyperactive, some are very quiet. Now in the sattvic category itself there are varieties. Some love bhajans, some love meditations, some love deep study of the scriptures. Varieties are there. So now the guru must understand what kind of person is this. And how will you know a person? How can you rate a person, judge a person? It is only possible when you interact with the person. So physical interaction is also necessary so that the guru can understand the type. Because every personality makeup is different. People have different vasanas, different samskaras, different tendencies, different likes and dislikes. So this guru will understand only when he knows that person in specific. Of course, general instructions can be given, but if the specific instruction has to be given, guru has to know what kind of person is this. So too the shishya also is benefited by the physical nearness of the guru, because he might have listened to this knowledge, but when he sees a person who is living this knowledge, he might have read all the virtues in the book. When he sees a person who is living these virtues, then that generates inspiration in him to follow the path of spirituality. Physically, when he sees the greatness of the teacher, his love, his compassion, his honesty, his straightforwardness, his dispassion, his devotion. Now, there are so many virtues which in day-to-day incidences, day-to-day living, in little examples, little incidences, he shows. So all these behaviors of the teacher becomes an inspiration for the student to live a path of spirituality. So that is why seva is insisted in spiritual path. That's why all the children are sent to Gurukula. What happens in Gurukula? The students get an opportunity to live with the teacher. Remember, Guru doesn't want any service from the student. Don't say, Guru is very selfish. he want to get service from students, therefore he has called all the Shishyas. Guru is Nitya Truptaha. He doesn't need any service from others. But he allows service so that others can benefit. So this is the importance of seva. Then what? Pariprashnena. So once seva is done, naturally the tuning happens between the Guru and the Shishya. So here is a Shishya who is full of respect, love, reverence for the teacher. He is fully tuned to him. He knows the greatness of his teacher. He knows the greatness, the knowledge which the teacher has. So because of which that reverence is there. So naturally when you have reverence for someone, you listen to him without questioning. You don't doubt him. You have total faith in him. Whatever instructions come from the place of your reverence, you just follow it implicitly. Right? So fully tuning has happened, and when the full tuning has happened, naturally he gets a right to ask question. So pariprashnena. So he asks questions. So Guru, now he knows what kind of Shishya is in front of him. So according to his nature, he gives answers. A question may have varieties of answers, but now the Guru knows this particular person is at this level. So therefore, he will be satisfied only with this kind of answer. Right? So these questions are asked, and in our Hindu philosophy, every student has the right to ask question. He can ask any kind of question to the teacher. As we said earlier, this is a samvada. It is neither a vada, nor jalpa, nor vitandavada. I hope you remember. It's a samvada. So then, this way, this is what is expected of a student. Pariprashna, pranipata and seva. Now from the other side, what is the qualification of a teacher? Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Who are these wise people? They are jnaninaha. Jnaninaha means they have studied the scriptures thoroughly. And tattvadarshinaha. Tattvadarshina means in their own life they have realized the truth. It is an experiential knowledge for them, not mere theoretical knowledge. They are tattvadarshis. They have seen the truth, realized the truth. Not only that they have realized the truth, they are efficient in communicating also. So here jnani means they are efficient in communicating in the scriptural style. Because in this world, you will find two types of people. One, they have the knowledge, they have the experience, but they don't know how to communicate. Such teachers are useless, inefficient. They are like what you call PhD professors who have lot of knowledge, but in their class, all the children sleep. Why? They don't know how to communicate. Now, communication is also important. You may have knowledge, but unless you are able to make it simple, understandable, right, then you fail as a teacher. So there are others who are very good communicators, but they don't have knowledge. They don't have experiential knowledge. Those teachers are also not of much use. So these two qualifications a teacher must have. What are the qualifications? Number one, subjective experience of the reality. Number two, effective communication. If these two are there, then the teacher will be efficient. So these people who are jnaninaha, who knows how to teach. This subject being very, very subtle, you must be an expert in the scriptures, because the scriptural way of teaching, that methodology of teaching has to be followed. And the best way of teaching is the way the scriptures teach us. So he must be what you call a shrotriya. one adept in the scriptures, and he must be a Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta means one who has experiential knowledge. So those people, te jnanam upadekshyanti, they will definitely give you this knowledge. If this is your attitude, what is the attitude? Humility, service, and inquiry. If this way you approach the teachers, those teachers will definitely give you the knowledge. What happens after gaining this knowledge? Let us see verse number 35. Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanyasheshena drakshasyatmanyatho mai. Yajñātvā, knowing which. So a guru is absolutely necessary to gain this knowledge. After gaining this knowledge, what are the benefits? So 35, 36, 37, these verses talk about the benefits. After gaining this knowledge, what will happen? Na punarmoham yasyasi. You will never be deluded again. Once you gain this knowledge, you will be free from delusion for the rest of your life. Moham. Moham means delusion. What is delusion? Atasmin tad buddhihi. What is not there, you see that. What is there, you don't see. This is called delusion. So, there is a rope. What are you seeing? Snake. Snake is not there, but you are seeing snake. Rope is there, but you are not seeing the rope. You see, rope, snake and all we understand. But in spirituality, what is the moha? The greatest moha is, God alone is, but I am not seeing God. Whom am I seeing? I am seeing myself. The ego I am seeing, but what alone exists? God alone exists. The existing God you are not seeing, the non-existing ego you are seeing. Right? Who are you? I am a man, I am a woman, I am this, I am that. All those things are the non-existing ego. You are seeing it very clearly. And what is existing? The pure consciousness which is God, you are not seeing it. This is moha. Right? Varieties of mohas are there. Projecting happiness in the world outside, this is moha. Where are you seeing happiness? In the world. Where is happiness? It is my own nature. There I am not seeing. In myself I don't see happiness. In the other place I am seeing happiness. People have varieties of delusion. A student is deluded in believing that marks means happiness. This is delusion. A jobless fellow thinks job is happiness. The one who has a job thinks if I go to US and UK, I will be happy. People who are in US and UK think if I come back and settle in a village, I will be happy. Right? Politicians think power is happiness. Businessmen think money is happiness. Unmarried fellow thinks marriage is happiness. Married people think divorce is happiness. Childless couple think children are happiness. Varieties are there. Unhealthy person thinks health is happiness. Poor person thinks money is happiness. Correct? So this way, delusions come in varieties. Once you gain this knowledge, all your delusion you can make a grave and bury in it, Bhagavan says. It will never come back again. Just like a person who is dreaming, he is going through nightmare, worries. The moment he wakes up, what happens? All his worries, problems, everything is ended. Will it come back again? It can't. Just like once you have known the rope as a rope, you can never see it again as snake. So once this knowledge is gained, there is no question of losing it. And what is the glory of this knowledge? Now Bhagavan says, Yena bhutani asheshena drakshasi atmani atho mai. Bhagavan says, once you gain this knowledge, what will happen? Something wonderful happens. What is it? Till now you were thinking that you are in this world. After this knowledge, you will come to know the world is in you. Yena, by which knowledge, asheshena bhutani, all these beings, living, non-living, inert, sentience, where do you see them? In yourself, Atmani. Now Bhagavan says, this Atma in you is none other than me. Atmani Mayi, in me. Now this becomes a Mahavakya. What is Mahavakya? Any statement where there is an identity between Jivatma and Paramatma. Any statement which reveals the identity between Jiva and Ishvara, the individual and God, Jiva and Brahma, any such statement is called a Mahavakya. Now here is a Mahavakya. What does Bhagavan say? The one who knows this sees the entire world in his own self, which is me. So who is Bhagavan? Who is Bhagavan? The self in each and every one of us. The self means what? The I. I means what? Consciousness. Consciousness is what? Awareness. Whatever you may call. The Sakshi in us, the witness in us, the witnessing consciousness which is always present as I am. I am. Who is that I am? Bhagavan says it is me. So how far is God from you now? God is never far away from us. How far is the I from me? It is me only, isn't it? There is no distance. Bhagavan says, such a person who has gained this knowledge, he becomes one with me. There is no difference between that person and me. So, what does this verse say? Once a person gains this knowledge, there is mohanashaha, destruction of delusion, and then there is jiva brahma aikya darshanam, vision of jiva and brahma. What are the other benefits? Verse number 36 and 37. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrajinam santarishyasi yathai-dhamsi samidhognihi bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagnis sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Arjuna, if you are of this nature, which nature? Api chetasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah. If you are a rank sinner, suppose you are a person who has done all possible crimes in this world, sins in this world, the worst among the sinners, even if you are of this nature, the glory of this knowledge is sarvam jnana plavena eva vrajinam santarishyasi. Using the boat of knowledge, jnana plava, plava means boat, raft. Using this boat of knowledge, vrajinam, this ocean of sin, you will easily cross over. The glory of knowledge is that whatever be your past, whoever you may be a great sinner, doesn't matter, even you are fit for this knowledge. Everyone is fit for this knowledge. Even if you are this greatest sinner, you can easily cross over the ocean of sin. That much sin he has committed. How much? An ocean can be created out of the sin. So how easily a person crosses over the ocean, irrespective of the depth of the ocean. You need not know the depth, you easily cross over, isn't it? If you have a boat. In the same way, with this boat of knowledge, you cross over this ocean of sins easily. That is the glory of this knowledge. So you can say Sarva Papa Nasha. So now a question may come, Bhagavan, I may cross over this ocean of sin, but the ocean will remain, no, even though I have crossed over. So Bhagavan says, no, Arjuna, that ocean gets dried up. So in order to indicate that, the next verse, what does Bhagavan say? Yathai dhamsi samiddhognihi bhasmasat kurute Arjuna. Yatha samiddha agnihi. Well kindled fire. What does it do? Edhamsi bhasmasat kuruse. Just like a well kindled fire reduces a huge pile of fuel into ashes in no time. In the same way, tatha jnanagnihi, this fire of knowledge, sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute. It reduces all your actions into ashes. Not only your papa karma, your papa and punya karma, everything is reduced into ashes. That is the glory of this jnana agni. Now what does it mean? So what are the karmas available? First of all, there are three karmas: sanchita karma, prarabdha karma and agami karma. Sanchita karma are all those karmas which are waiting to yield results. Not yet ready to yield results, but they are waiting. How many are they? It's a huge mountain pile, because from Anadi Kala we have been doing actions, and all those actions are fit to give results. When did the first karma begin? It is Anadi, beginningless. There is no first karma and all that. Because Jivatva is Anadi, so karma also has to be Anadi. When did I become an individual? It is Anadi, beginningless. Because if suppose you say, at a particular time you became an individual, what does it mean? Before that, you were God. Now what is the nature of God? Sarvatnya, full of knowledge. Now how can ignorance come from knowledge? You see the logic. Suppose you say ignorance began at some point of time. What does it mean? Ignorance has to precede knowledge. Knowledge has to succeed ignorance. But how can ignorance come from knowledge? So therefore, never think that at some point of time I was God and then I became a jiva. I fell into samsara. It is not like that. You were always in samsara only. Right? So jivatva is anadi. So therefore, karma also is anadi. Beginningless. So in the beginningless past, how much actions you must have done? So that many actions are waiting to yield results. So the sanchita is infinite. So that sanchita karma is there. Out of that sanchita, one part is ready to give result, which has become now prarabdha karma. And now even while exhausting the prarabdha karma in this birth, I am accumulating more and more karmas because I am doing karma with a sense of doership. So those karmas are also getting added to the sanchita. Now what is the glory of knowledge? Bhagavan says this knowledge will reduce the entire pile of all the three into ashes. How? So what does this knowledge do? This knowledge ends the jiva. Now all the karmas belong to whom? It belongs to the individual, the jiva. And who is the jiva? Consciousness identified with BMI. What does this knowledge do? It puts an end to the identification. Ending the identification is ending the jivatva bhava, ending the individual. Ending the individual means ego is dead. Now these karmas belong to whom? It doesn't belong to anyone because the person is dead. Suppose there is a criminal. So many cases are pending. He has done so many crimes. And ultimately in a shootout, the police kills him. Now what happens to these pending files? The person is dead. So naturally the file has to be closed. Isn't it? In the same way, the entire sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, agami karma belongs to whom? To the jiva. What does this knowledge do? Shoot him, kill him. Jivatma is dead. So therefore, all his pending cases are also closed. Got it? Yes. So therefore, this way, this Jnana Agni puts an end to all your karmas, whether it is Punya karma or Papa karma. So therefore, next verse, very famous. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindate. So in 35, 36 and 37 we find the benefits of gaining knowledge, which is mohanasha and then Jiva Brahma Aikya Darshanam, then Sarva Papa Nashaha and then Sarva Karma Nashaha. The four things are mentioned here. Now Bhagavan glorifies this knowledge. What does he say? Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. In this world there is no greater purifier than knowledge. Who is the greatest purifier in this world? Bhagavan says, it is knowledge and knowledge alone. What are the other types of purifiers? There are so many. Vrata, Japa, Tapa, all these things are purifiers. Ganga, Snana, yes, they will purify all the sins. But what is the problem with all of them? Sins are purified, but the sinner is still there to commit more sins. Sinner is not dead. He is there, ready to commit more sins, isn't it? As long as the sinner is there, so long the sins will be committed. What is this jnana doing? Jnana shoots the sinner himself. He kills the sinner. Once the sinner is dead, who is there to commit any more sins? Got it? It is something like a detergent, In the market, what kind of detergent is available? They may say, this is the best detergent. Even the, thickest, strongest stain also will be removed. That is the advertisement gave. But suppose there is a detergent which not only removes the strongest stain, but also prevents the cloth from getting further stain in the future. Of course, it's a very idealistic state. There cannot be any kind of such detergent. But this jnana is that detergent. Not only that, whatever sins you have committed in the past, it's all washed away. But there is no more any possibility of me committing any sin. Because now I am identified with actionless consciousness. Not only that you will not commit any sin, you can't commit any punya also. Of course, at the body level, punya will happen, but as far as you are concerned, there is no action. Right? The sinner himself is shot dead. That is a glory of knowledge. Bhagavan, when will I gain this knowledge? So Bhagavan says, Tat swayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. Arjuna, it will take kala. It will take time. Don't be in a hurry-burry. It is not some fast food that you can gulp it and finish it. No, it will take its time. And this process is it's a slow process. Every process in nature is a slow process. A flower blossoming, it's a very slow process. A sun rising, it's a slow process. Any constructive process in the nature is slow, isn't it? Similarly, now what is happening? The personality is flourishing, blossoming, unfolding. It will take its own time. Intellectually you may understand, but to put it into practice, it will not happen all of a sudden. It will take its own time. So Bhagavan says, Kalena, as the time progresses, by employing the right means. What is the right means? Yoga samsiddha. The one who has attained perfection through yoga. So what is this yoga? Karma yogena chitta shuddhihi, jnana yogena jnana praptihi. First purify the mind through karma yoga. Once the mind is well prepared, purified, with such a mind you gain this knowledge through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Thus, Yoga Samsiddha, one who has attained perfection, what will happen to him? Tat Swayam Atmani Vindati. He will see that very same self in himself. He will see that ultimate truth as himself, in himself, by himself. Right. Bhagavan, tell me, what are the qualifications to gain this knowledge? What is the sure method to gain the knowledge? Because earlier you said pranipatena, pariprasnena, seveya, etc. But that is not a sure method. There can be a hypocrite also, who can do pranipata, but inside he is not fit. Who will ask questions just to impress the teacher. Such students are also there. They will try to invent some questions in order to, get a sabash from the teacher. Oh, what a brilliant question he has asked. It is not his question. He just wants to impress the teacher. So, questioning is not a sure sign of disciplehood. Falling flat at the feet of the teacher is not a sure sign of disciplehood. Seva is also not a sure sign. Bhagavan, what is a sure indication that this person is fit to gain it? So the very famous verse, next one. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparas sanyatendriyah jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena dhigacchati. Yes, now here Bhagavan gives 3 qualifications which are unavoidable in order to gain this knowledge. What is the first one? Shraddhavan, Shraddha, faith. Then Tat Paraha, diligent. One who considers this knowledge to be the highest and is working hard for it. Tat Paraha. Then Sanyata Indriyaha, the one who has mastery over the Indriyas. So first one, let us say, what is that first one? Shraddhavan, Shraddha, faith. Faith in what? Faith in what? Faith in the existence of such a reality. First of all, you have to start from there, isn't it? That there is a reality, there is something called God, there is something called infinite, immortal consciousness, the ultimate truth. So first of all, you must have a faith that such a thing exists. Then only all the other things come. Then faith in the validity of the means of knowledge. So there is an ultimate truth, right? And that the means of knowledge is true. What do you mean means of knowledge? Means of knowledge is called pramana. So now I am going to use some Sanskrit words now. Knower is called pramata. The known object is called prameya. Knowledge is called prama. And the means of knowing is called pramana. Got it? So when the pramata, if he has to know the prameya, if he has to gain the prama of the prameya, he has to apply the pramana. Understood? See, for example, suppose I want to know the color of a flower. Right? What do I want to know? Color of the flower. So who is the pramata? I myself. I want to know. And what is the prama, knowledge? I want the color. And what is the prameya, the object? The flower. So if I want to know the color of the flower, what is the means of knowledge, pramana, I should use? Eyes. The means of knowing is only eyes. You can't use your ears to know the color of a flower. Isn't it? If the knowledge has to take place, you will have to use a means of knowledge. What is the means by which you will gain this knowledge? You must have healthy eyes. There are color blind people also. That pramana is an inefficient pramana. It will not help. A color-blind person will not know what is that color. So, you must have faith in the means of the knowledge. It is called as pramana. So, what is the means of knowledge with respect to the ultimate truth? The means of knowledge is Guru and Vedanta Vakya. The statements of the scriptures, the statements of the Vedas. Veda is pramana. That's it. Vedaha pramanam. Full stop. Atindriya Vishaya Vedaha pramanam. Veda is the means of knowledge. So whether this truth exists or not, how do you know? Vedas have said it, over. Matter is over. That is the way. So you must have faith in the existence of the truth. You must have faith in the means of knowledge. You must have faith in the Guru also, in his wisdom, in his nobility. You must have faith in the teacher. And fourthly, you must have faith in yourself that I can achieve it. For faith. Right? You must have faith in the ultimate truth. You must have faith in the means of knowledge, Shastra. You must have faith in the teacher. You must have faith in yourself. This is Shraddha. And then, next one, Tat Paraha. Mere faith will not do. There are very many people who believe, if the teacher is telling, it may be true. But they don't do anything. That will not do. Tat Paraha. Tat Paraha means keeping that as the para, highest. You have to put forth effort. Working hard in order to gain it. Working diligently with steadfastness. Tat Paraha. I want this and this alone. That feeling. Intense desire. Desire which is coming from the bottom of your heart, as they say. Tat Paraha. Karyam va sadhayami, deham va patayami. This is the attitude. Either I will get it or I will fall down dead. This is the attitude. Tat Paraha. But Bhagavan says, these two may be there, Shraddha may be there, Tatparata may be there, but if suppose you are not disciplined, then it is not going to help. So therefore, Sanyata Indriya, one who has disciplined his mind and the sense organs. Because Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha. These Indriyas are very turbulent. These Indriyas can take away the mind and intellect into the world of sensuality. It is possible. So you may be pouring water into the pot, but if the pot is leaking, then it will never get filled up. So, disciplined sense organs. So, Shraddha, Tatparata, and Indriya Nigraha. These are the three things. If you have this, you are going to get it. There is no doubt. You will get it. Undoubtedly you will get it. The other things, there is no guarantee. You may do pranipata, you may do seva, you may do pariprasna, there is no guarantee. But if you have these three, success assured. Then, after gaining knowledge, what? Jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. Once you gain this knowledge, param shantim, supreme bliss is achirena. Achirena means instantly. The moment you gain this knowledge, the very same moment, you experience bliss. And when do you gain knowledge? When you have all the other three qualifications. So gain this qualification, gain the knowledge, and drown in the ocean of bliss. Right? Bhagavan, who will not get this? That is also important, no? Who will get this and who will never get this? So that is the next verse. Verse number 40. Ajñascha shraddadhanascha samshayatma vinashyate nayam lokosti na paraha na sukham samshayatmanah. Yes. So there are three types of people who will never get this knowledge. First one, Ajnaha, ignorant. Second one, ashraddha faithless. The third one, samshayatma. Samshayatma, a doubting Thomas. One who doubts. So who is an ajnaha? Ajnaha means ignorant. Why is he ignorant? Unfortunately, he never got an opportunity to attend satsang. That is the only reason. Or maybe he was in satsang, somewhere he got distaste, he went out. He ran away from there. He was not understanding what is happening. Why these people are wasting time here? Because time is money. And here are people who are sitting unnecessarily, trying to understand some useless thing. So, this person is ignorant. Ignorant means what? He is not exposed to this knowledge. Of course, this knowledge is very rare. So, the possibility that a person may come across this knowledge is also very rare. This is what Kathopanishad says. Shravanayapi bahubhiryo na labhyaha. Shranvantopi bahavo yamna vidyu. Even to listen to this knowledge, it is very rare. How much percentage of mankind has got this knowledge? 99.99%. They don't know this. So this atnyascha, what does Bhagavan say? There is no scope for his gaining this knowledge at all. Forget it. Not possible. Then the second one, ashraddha. There are people who get an opportunity to listen, but there is no faith. Now what will you do? He listens, but somewhere from within, something says that, I don't think this is right. I think this Swami is bluffing. I think this Krishna, he has been bluffing throughout his life. Maybe this is also another bluff. Somewhere that lack of faith creeps in. Now remember, the faith is directly proportional to your purity of mind. You are not able to trust someone. There is no faith. So what happens? He listens, but he has no faith, no second chance, he leaves and goes. The second category. Bhagavan says vinashyati, gone case. Because the very first step to put forth some effort in the line of progress, that first step comes from faith. Unless you have a faith that there is something which exists, there is a question of putting forth effort. So ashraddha dhanaha, there is no question of his putting forth effort, he is also gone. Now the third case. What is the third case? Samshayatma. He is a pendulum. Sometime he has faith. When he is listening, he has faith. The moment he goes out, right? Samshayatma. He is neither here nor there. Right? Now here Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, among these three, the worst is Samshayatma. Why? Na ayam lokaha asti na paraha. As far as a Samshayatma is concerned, his condition is pathetic. See, as far as an Ajna is concerned, ignorant person is concerned, he has no faith in the other world, etc. So at least he has this world. He indulges in all kinds of pleasures here, so at least this pleasure is available for him. The joy of this world is available for him. Same case with ashraddha dhanaha also. He has no faith in the other world, so therefore, as far as he is concerned, his mind is not divided when he indulges in the pleasures in this world. What about Samshayatma? This Samshayatma, when he goes to indulge in bhoga, he is reminded of yoga. So somewhere in Satsang he has heard, all these pleasures are ephemeral, finite, full of defects. Now he is thinking of yoga in bhoga. So he can't indulge also. Okay, he leaves everything and goes for yoga. What does he remember? Maybe I am missing something there. So in yoga, when he is seated for meditation, he is thinking of the worldly pleasure. And when he is going to indulge in worldly pleasure, his mind is not fully cooperating. because he knows that there is something higher, isn't it? So he is neither here nor there. Not only that, Bhagavan says, na sukham samshayatmanah. A person who doubts, he can never be happy. Just imagine a person who is doubting his driver. Now, doubting is a tendency, is a nature of a person. A doubting person will doubt everyone. So just imagine, can he travel with a peaceful mind when he is doubting his own driver? Now he is doubting his own cook. Can he eat anything with peace of mind? He is doubting his own wife. Where will there be peace? So he is doubting his children, his his barber also. Everywhere he is doubting. Bhagavan says, na sukham. There is no question of having any kind of peace of mind for him. Other people will have some peace, but samshayatma is the worst case. No peace here, no peace hereafter. So what is the essential message? Never be a samshayatma. You be an ajna, no problem. You be an ashraddhalu, no problem. But never be a samshayatma. Right? But don't be any of these three. Be what? Be shraddhavan, tatparaha and sanyatendriya. Right? Now the whole topic is wound up. Next two, 41, 42. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadhnanti dhananjaya tasmadajnana sambhutam hृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः छित्त्वैनं संशयं योगम् आतिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत. Yes. So the conclusion of this topic, what is it? Such a person is not bound by action. Na karmani nibadhnanti. Who is that person? Whom the actions will not bind. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna samshayam atmavantam. Yoga sanyasta karmanam, the one who has renounced action in a spirit of karma yoga. Meaning, this yoga sanyasta karmanam represents karma yoga. Renouncing action means performing all actions as a worship of the Lord. Jnana sanchinna samshayam, practicing jnana yoga. So what happens with jnana yoga? All your doubts are cut as under. Dispeller of doubts, that is jnana. So all his doubts are dispelled by jnana, and then atmavantam, he has become a self-realized saint. Such a person, actions won't bind him. Now that is the main topic of this chapter. Tasmat, therefore, what you should do, Bharata, hristam enam ajnana sambhutam samshayam jnanasina chitva. So therefore, tasmat, what you should do, this samshayam, this doubt, which is hristam, remaining in your heart. Where does this doubt come from? Ajnana sambhutam, born out of ignorance. Ignorance of the self. So you are ignorant of yourself, therefore all these doubts and delusions have come. What you should do? Jnanasina chitva. Chop this doubts and delusions with the sword of knowledge. Destroy it. And then yogam atishta, be established in yoga. Arjuna, uttishta, arise. So Arjuna, now stand up and fight the war. Because you are not fit for jnana yoga, you are fit for only karma yoga. First purify the mind, then gain this knowledge. So therefore now your job is be established in karma yoga. Uttishta, get up and fight. So here the chapter gets over. Om Tat Saditi श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानकर्मसन्न्यासयोगो नाम चतुर्थोऽध्यायः. Thus this fourth chapter, what is the name of the chapter? Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. What does it mean? Jnanena karmanam sannyasah, renouncing the actions through knowledge. It is not renouncing action, but understanding that I am actionless. So this is the name of the chapter. The dialogue happening is between Krishna and Arjuna. So this Bhagavad Gita contains both Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra, the means of purification and means of gaining knowledge. So this Bhagavad Gita is nothing but the essence of the Upanishad. So this chapter comes to an end. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.